the city. So I think, you know, the thematic mapping work that the city has been doing is one of the good tools that we do have, and that could be replicated across Auckland in terms of giving us the ability to read and understand the heritage within our landscape, and to be able to use that as part of the tool to inform how we change and grow, to sort of understand sense of place within the community, and to look at how we can use that sense of place in the way that Auckland does change over time. Because I think, you know, we can't pretend that Auckland won't continue to change. So how do we use this understanding of the heritage landscape to be able to assist us to inform the way change occurs, and to assist communities to really strengthen their identity and sense of place as the city changes. Now this might be a bit daunting as a diagram, and I know I've seen a lot of you having to stand up because the heads of the people in front of you mean that you only get the top bit of the screen, so apologies for that. But the other work that I've been involved with the city is about the heritage landscape framework, which this diagram sort of summarises, if you like. And you can see here, there's the thematic framework work, there's the series of maps that I talked to you about, and sub-themes will exist underneath that in terms of the different places that you are within the city. Will have different sub-themes which divide out, if you like, from these the 9 overall themes. And then on this bottom layer, feeding up into this sort of central bar of the diagram, the discipline-specific criteria and assessment around the values of the landscape and significance across the traditional areas of disciplines of geology, Maori, archaeology, ecology, trees and built, so that more fine-grained scheduling of items comes from that sort of bottom of the diagram. And those two things feed in together to the understanding of heritage elements, so those scheduled items and places of significance that are recognised specifically as elements, and then heritage areas and what are called heritage landscapes and townscapes. And I think one of the things when you read this diagram is it's important not to think that what the city is suggesting is that, particularly in terms of the heritage landscapes, there's a model around scheduled protection within that landscape. It's more about reading those areas and using the understanding of the heritage within those areas where heritage does cluster to kind of, again, inform an understanding of the place. And I'm not quite sure I saw Joanna Smith's face when I put this slide up, and I think it's one of those things where you know what it means, it makes sense to you perhaps. This is what I call my palimpsest diagram. And palimpsest, one of the dictionary definitions is about how when you write heavily on a piece of paper, you know when you pull over the next piece of paper, the indentation is still there. And palimpsest is about that concept of layers in the landscape, reading through, in this case, reading through significant events and places in our landscape as that comes through time. So it's a very temporal thing in terms of from the past through to the present, what comes from our past landscape through into the present, and then beyond that into the future. And I think, particularly where we as heritage professionals in one way or another, and advocates for heritage, kind of need to have an eye is to that future in terms of what is it that we do take with us, and the meaning of the heritage landscape that we bring forward, recognising that not everything will remain from the past. That change will occur, and some things do get left along the way. That they're still part of our stories and our heritage and understanding, but they're no longer the visible parts of our heritage landscape. So that's really what this diagram is talking to. It's really talking about that evolutionary process of tracking heritage and what comes through from the past to the present and on to the future. So yes, that's really the sort of the summary slide at the end that really sort of just rounds out the fact that I do think, you know, that Auckland City particularly has been doing some work in relation to having tools that enable us to be good advocates for heritage in terms of the way the city will continue to grow and change, and that we can use those tools and hopefully advocate for them as good tools across this wider city as the One Auckland Council comes into being. I know that's something that I'll continue to champion when we have this new beast, whatever it is, and the concept of spatial planning, which was very strongly enunciated in the Commission's report in terms of the structure. Yes, Joanna's very expressive faces saying we need to continue to champion also for spatial planning as part of the tools for thinking about the One Auckland. And I think, you know, that the change that is occurring does give us a good time, both in terms of Auckland's growth and the fact that we will continue to need to accommodate more people. So how do we do that, and how do we use the tools that we have around understanding our heritage landscape to make sure that as that change happens, communities don't get disconnected from their heritage and their past, but actually continue to grow with that, see it as part of their contemporary landscape, and carry both new heritage into the future, but also aspects from that past into the future as well. And so really that sort of clear message around, I think, you know, we all need to do everything we can to champion heritage as part of our future, and to really use all the tools that we have to be able to do that successfully. So thank you. And